Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to everybody. And today I shall continue with responsibility matrices. Okay, it is also called as a linear responsibility chart that summarizes the tasks to be accomplished and finding out who's responsible for the team project. Okay, it lists down the project activities and the participants. It clarifies critical interfaces between units and individuals that need coordination and provide a name, provide a mean, for all participants to view their responsibilities and agree on their assignments. It also clarifies to extend the type of authority that can be exercised. So this is example of the uh, responsibility metric. So you have Richard, Dan, and Dave, and Linda, Elizabeth. So we have a legend over here that says R for the person responsible, and S for the person who's supposed to support and assist. So for this task, identify target customers. We have Richard responsible, and then Linda supposed to help Richard in case if there's any support or extra hands needed for him to be able to find the identity of target customers. That is example of a matrix, and it tells you that between Elizabeth, Linda, Dave, and Dan and Richard, who has more responsibilities and who is supposed to back up each other when problems occurs when it comes to completing these tasks. Okay, so this is another example of responsibility matrix. Okay, it is much more complex in relationships. So we have previously only two kind of relationship, but now we have five, right? Five. Okay, so what is shown here? Number one is the person responsible. Number two, the person who's supposed to support. Number three, the person you can meet and consult. Number four is the person that should be notified in case anything happen. And number five is the person who's supposed to give the approval. Okay, if you look at this, the person who should give the approval usually are the person with the highest ranking. So next, we should go on with project communication plan. So what is a communication plan? It's about collecting information needs, finding what and when of the information needed. Okay, and then it will tells you who will receive the information, and it will specify what methods to be used to gather the and store information. So it also will help you to find the limits and define who has the access to certain kinds of information. And then it will tell when the information will be communicated and how it will be communicated. Right, next. Information needs. It will tells you about the project status, the deliverables issues, the changes in scope, the team status meeting, the gating decisions, accepted request changes, action items, and milestone reports. So in developing a communication plan, we need to have a stakeholder analysis, information needs, sources of information, dissemination modes, and responsibility and timing. This is example of an shale oil research project communication plan. Okay, it tells you what information, target audience, when it needs to be published, a method of communication, and the provider. It tells you the person who is responsible for all this kind of report, which is in a way is very systematic, and each time a person needs an information, they can basically meet and go straight to the person in charge and tells you the latest report on the latest issues. Estimating times and costs. The learning objective for estimation times and costs is to explain the importance of estimating project times and costs, where it is the foundation for project planning and control. Secondly, is to explain the awareness of the methods, uses, and advantages and disadvantages of top down and bottom up estimation methods. Number three, to suggest estimating guidelines for time, costs, and resources. So you must be wondering what is top down and bottom up. So in an OBS or organization chart, okay, we do have people at the top level, middle level, and bottom level. Middle level and top level. When we talk about top down, the directives of the project always come from the top level to the bottom level. However, when we talk about bottom up, the ideas or directives come from the bottom level to the top level. This is what it means by top down and bottom up methods. Okay, estimating is a process of forecasting or approximating the time and cost of completing project deliverables. The task of balancing expectation of stakeholders need to control while the project is implemented. There's two types of estimates, the top-down or the macro estimates, where the analogy, group consensus, or mathematical relationship, or bottom-up, it is the micro estimates, where it involves the estimates of elements of the work breakdown structure, whereas it is much more detailed in the bottom-up, and this is more on mathematical, analogical, and theoretical sometimes for the top-down. So why estimating time and cost are important? It is important to support good decisions, to schedule work, and to determine how long the project should take and how much it costs. It is important to determine whether the project is worth doing, important so that you can develop cash flow needs, and it's important to tell you how well the project is progressing, and develop time-phase budgets and establish the project baseline. So we have learned before in engineering economics about cash flow diagram. So when we have the estimation of cost and time, we can actually merge both the cash flow diagram, okay, the cash flow diagram with the timeline diagram, right? Right? Especially AON. So where these two meets and how much cash flow you have to make sure that everything in the project runs successfully. It gives you a highly important, high impact economical impact to the projects, where it tells you the survival of the project. At the same time, it tells you how much more needs to be done to be able to complete a project. So factors influencing the quality of estimates, there are so many factors. First, the planning horizon. Second, the project duration, the people, project structure and organization, the padding estimates, organization culture, and other non-project factors. Estimating guidelines for times, costs, and resources. Okay, you must have people that is familiar with the task to make the estimate, right? Familiarity is really important. And use several people to make estimates, and base estimates on normal conditions, efficient methods, and a normal level of resources. Okay, use consistent time units in estimating task time. Treat each task as independent. Do not aggregate. Do not break it down. Okay, that's what aggregate means. Don't make allowances for contingencies, and adding a risk assessment that helps avoid surprises to stakeholders. The top-down versus bottom-up estimate. So the top-down estimates are usually derived from someone who uses experience or information, okay, to determine the project duration and total cost. They are made up by top managers who have little knowledge of the processes used to complete the project. But however, they still have to do estimations, and this is based on experience totally and information. The bottom-up approach, however, it can serve as a check on cost elements on the WBS by rolling up the work packages and associated cost accounts to major deliverables of the work package level. So this is just saying, bottom-up, it tells you much more details about all the costing. It's not just experience, it tells you about every inch of the work packages involved, and tells you the cost involved at every level of details. So estimating project preferred approach, make a rough top-down estimates, develop a WBS or OBS, make bottom-up estimates, develop schedules and budget, reconcile differences between top-down and bottom-up estimates. So this is two examples of bottom-up estimates and the top-down estimates. All right, so you can read that later. The level of detail is different from different levels of management. The level of details in the WBS varies with the complexity of the project. Excessive detail is also costly. It fosters a focus on departmental outcomes and creates unproductive paperwork. Insufficient detail is also costly. It lacks of focus on goals and wasted effort on non-essential activities. So these are the things that you need to find the right balance when you do costing. The type of cost, first, direct cost, where it is a cost that are clearly chargeable to specific work package. For example, labor, material costs, equipment costs, and many others. Direct project costs or the overhead costs is the costs incurred that are directly tied to an identifiable project deliverable or work package. For example, the salary rent, supplies, specialized machinery, etc. There's so many types of direct project overhead costs. And general admin overhead costs, where these costs are indirectly linked to specific package that are apportioned to the project. This is an example of a bid summary cost. We have overhead costs, direct costs, total direct costs, G&A overhead, total cost, the profit, and the total bid. This is what you should do when you try to go for a bid or a tender. There are three views of cost: the committed cost, the actual cost, and scheduled budget. And all these needs to be monitored across the timeline. Refining estimates, you need to reason out for adjusting estimate, where you can see the interaction between costs that are hidden in the estimates, the normal conditions that do not apply, the things that might go wrong on projects, and changes in project scope and plans. You also sometimes need to adjust estimates. Why? The time and cost estimates of specific activities are adjusted as the risks, resources, and situation particulars become more clearly defined. Creating a database for estimation, it is very useful if you have a MIS, the hardware, the production, programming, documentation, risk analysis, and operation process. Developing a project plan. Well, this is about learning how to produce an AON and to determine early and slack activity times and identify the critical path, and to explain the importance of Slack in scheduling project. Okay, I shall continue later.